started on a night that felt painfully ordinary. Her name was Emily, 17 years old, just another tired teenager in a quiet American town. Homework done, phone in her hand, headphones still tangled in the sheets. Nothing strange, nothing unusual, at least that's what she thought. The clock on her nightstand glowed. 11:48 p.m., a soft buzz of the air conditioner filled the silence. Outside, crickets sang under the streetlights. Emily's eyelids grew heavier, her body sinking deeper into the mattress. She didn't know it yet, but the exact second she closed her eyes, something else was happening across town. Someone else was taking their last breath. The next morning began like every other. Birds outside, the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen. Emily dragged herself out of bed, yawning, rubbing her eyes, not realizing that her world had already started to fracture. Her mom stood frozen by the kitchen counter, her face pale. The TV was on. Local news anchors spoke in their flat, rehearsed voices. Emily heard just enough to feel the first sting of unease. Found dead in her sleep last night. Authorities have not released the cause. Neighbors say she was perfectly healthy. The name of the victim flashed on screen. Mrs. Johnson, the sweet old woman, who lived 2 streets over, always smiling, always watering her flowers, always waving when Emily rode her bike to school. Emily blinked, shook her head, tried to process, dead in her sleep. Her mom muttered something about heart failure, about old age, about these things just happen. Emily nodded, but her chest tightened. Something about the news stuck to her like glue. Why did it feel connected? That night, she lay in bed again, staring at the ceiling. Her brain replayed every word from the news broadcast. Her pulse thudded in her ears. 11:40, 11:41, almost 47. Her eyes felt heavy. She remembered Mrs. Johnson's face smiling the last time she saw her. The weight of exhaustion dragged her down. 11:48, darkness. The next morning, she heard the scream before she even reached the kitchen. Her mom dropped a plate. The sound of shattered glass rang through the house. The TV was on again. Another news report, another sudden death. This time it wasn't an old woman. It was a man in his 40s, perfectly healthy, no explanation, no warning, found dead in bed. And again, at the exact same time, Emily fell asleep. 11:48. Her stomach churned. She felt sick. It couldn't be a coincidence. Could it? She tried to shake it off, but the thought followed her all day at school. The hallways felt colder. The chatter of other students faded into the background. Every time she blinked too long, every time her head drooped from exhaustion, a knot of dread tightened in her chest. What if falling asleep meant more than just rest? What if somehow her sleep was tied to their deaths? That night, Emily sat upright in her bed, refusing to let her eyes close. She scrolled endlessly through her phone. TikTok, YouTube, anything to keep herself awake. She chewed on her fingernails, shook her legs, even whispered to herself just to stay alert. But her body betrayed her. Her eyelids dropped. 11:48. Darkness swallowed her again. Morning came. Her phone buzzed with notifications. Group chats blowing up. Her friends' texts filled with shock. Another death. This time it was a teenager. A boy from her own school. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through the messages. She could barely read the words. He died in his sleep. Same time as the others. No explanation. The world around her blurred. It wasn't random. It wasn't coincidence. Every time she closed her eyes, someone else never opened theirs again. She sat in her room, hugging her knees to her chest. Her phone clutched tight in her hand. Tears welled in her eyes, but she couldn't cry. She was too scared, too broken, too consumed by one unshakable truth. Sleep wasn't safe anymore. Not for her. Not for anyone else. Because Emily wasn't just resting when she drifted off. She was flipping a switch, the sleep switch. Emily didn't want to believe it. She told herself she was imagining things, that it was just bad luck, that the deaths had nothing to do with her. But deep down she knew. She could feel it in her bones. The deaths weren't random. They were following her. That night, Emily tried something different. She forced herself to stay awake. She sat cross-legged on her bed, lights still on, a half-empty energy drink sweating on her nightstand. She told herself she would make it through the night. She wouldn't let her eyes close. But the human body always wins. Her eyelids felt heavier than bricks. Her head bobbed forward. Her phone slipped from her hand. She blinked. Just one slow blink. When she opened her eyes, the clock glowed 11:48 p.m. Her stomach dropped. Darkness swallowed her. The next morning, the air in town felt heavier. Emily's phone buzzed nonstop. At breakfast, her mom's face was pale again. The TV was on. Another report. Another sudden death. This time it wasn't someone distant. It was Mr. Langford, her science teacher. Perfectly healthy, not old, not sick, just gone. Found in his bed, eyes closed as if he'd never woken up. Emily's fork clattered to the floor. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She remembered the way he'd smiled at her in class the day before, joking about the upcoming exam. Alive, happy, fine, now dead. At the exact same time she fell asleep, Emily's friends whispered about it all day. 3 people in 3 nights. What if it's some kind of sickness? My mom says it's carbon monoxide. No, my dad says it's poison in the water. Theories spread like wildfire, but no one suspected her. How could they? She was just another teenager trying to make it through the week. But inside, Emily's mind was unraveling. Because she knew the truth. She was the connection. That night, Emily swore she would not sleep. Not even for a second. She taped her eyelids with strips of medical tape, forcing them open. She turned on every light in her room. She blared music through her headphones, letting it pound into her skull. Still, exhaustion clawed at her. Her body shook. Her vision blurred. Minutes crawled. Seconds dragged. 11:30. 11:40. 11:45. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She begged herself, just 3 more minutes. Don't close your eyes. Don't let it happen. But she couldn't fight nature. Her head slumped forward. 11:48. The switch flipped. Morning brought another scream, this time from her neighbor's house. Emily rushed to the window, her heart hammering. Across the street, paramedics wheeled out a stretcher. A black bag covered the body. She didn't need to ask who it was. Her neighbor, a woman she'd waved to countless times while getting the mail. Dead. At the exact time Emily drifted off. Tears blurred her vision. Her hands trembled as she clutched her phone. She couldn't tell anyone. Who would believe her? They'd call her insane. They'd lock her up. But how many more had to die? How long before the deaths reached her friends? Her family? Emily pressed her palms to her face, rocking back and forth in silence. She could hear her own heartbeat, rapid and frantic. She was cursed. Every blink of sleep was a death sentence. That night, she sat in her room, staring at the glowing numbers of the clock. She didn't drink. She didn't tape her eyes. She didn't fight. She just sat there, trembling, realizing the horrible truth. No matter how hard she tried, the result would be the same. Because when the time came, her body would betray her, and someone else would pay the price. Emily stopped being herself. She wasn't the smiling, carefree girl she used to be. She wasn't the teenager who laughed at dumb memes with her friends. She wasn't the daughter who sat at the dinner table, listening to her mom's stories about work. She was something else now, a prisoner of exhaustion. Her eyes were bloodshot, her skin pale. Her hands shook constantly. The bags under her eyes were so dark her classmates whispered that she was on drugs. Teachers asked if she was okay. Emily nodded, but she couldn't tell them the truth. How could she? How do you explain that every time you fall asleep, someone else dies? She stocked her room with energy drinks. Cans stacked high, littering the floor. She filled a thermos with black coffee, bitter and cold. She chewed caffeine pills until her jaw ached. She blasted music so loud her ears rang. None of it worked. Her body was shutting down. Every muscle ached. Every blink felt like a battle. Her head throbbed. Her vision blurred. She tried slapping herself, dunking her face in ice water, pacing the room, running in place. Still, her body wanted one thing: sleep, and the longer she resisted, the worse the deaths became. At first it was strangers, distant neighbors, people she barely knew. But as the days dragged on, the circle closed in. Her classmate, her neighbor, her teacher, all gone, and each time the deaths landed closer to home. Emily's mom noticed the change. "You look sick," she whispered one morning, brushing Emily's tangled hair out of her face. "You need rest." Emily wanted to scream. Rest meant death. Sleep meant switching someone's life for her own. But how could she explain that to her own mother? So she lied. "I'm fine, Mom, just studying too hard." Her mom frowned but said nothing more. That night, Emily sat curled on her bed, tears streaming down her face. She hadn't slept in almost 3 days. Her heart pounded erratically, skipping beats. Her head spun. Her lips trembled. She whispered to herself in the darkness, "Don't sleep, don't sleep, don't sleep." But her body betrayed her. Her eyes fluttered closed. 11:48. Darkness. The scream that woke her came from next door. She bolted upright, heart hammering. Red and blue lights flashed outside her window. Neighbors gathered on the lawn. Paramedics wheeled out another stretcher. This time it was the Petersons. Their daughter, just 12 years old. Emily's stomach turned to ice. Her hands shook violently. She collapsed against her bed, sobbing into her pillow, the sound muffled but raw. She wasn't just cursed. She was a murderer. The next day at school, she could barely walk. Every step felt heavy. Every sound felt distant. Her friends avoided her now, whispering behind her back, "Did you hear about the Peterson girl? That's 4 nights in a row. My mom says we should leave town." Emily kept her head down. If anyone looked too closely, they might see the guilt etched into her face. But no one could possibly understand the truth. That night, she sat in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at her reflection. Her eyes were bloodshot, rimmed with red. Her lips cracked and dry. Her skin pale as paper. She looked like she was already dead. "Just one night without sleep," she whispered to herself. "Just one more night. Maybe it will stop." But she knew that was a lie. The curse was hungry, and no matter how long she resisted, it would always win. Emily tried one last desperate plan. She tied her wrists to the bed frame. She taped her eyelids open. She set alarms on her phone for every 2 minutes. She begged her own body not to betray her. Hours dragged. Her chest hurt. Her throat burned. But at 11:48, her head slumped forward. Darkness swallowed her whole. The next morning, she didn't need the news to tell her. She didn't need sirens. She didn't need screams. She already knew. Someone else was gone, and the circle of death was closing in tighter. Closer to the people she loved. Closer to home. Emily couldn't take it anymore. She was unraveling piece by piece. Her body was weak, her mind broken, her soul crushed under the weight of guilt. The deaths were piling up, and she knew they weren't done. Not yet. But why her? Why was she cursed? The answer came from the library. She dragged herself there one afternoon. Eyes bloodshot, hands trembling, heart pounding from too much caffeine. She didn't know what she was looking for, only that she had to find something, anything. The town library was old, older than the town itself. Dust-covered shelves. The air smelled of mildew and forgotten history. Emily stumbled through the aisles until she reached the back, where the shelves sagged with records and files no one touched anymore. And there it was, a leather-bound book, cracked, faded, almost calling to her. She pulled it down, coughing as dust clouded the air. The book had no title on the cover, just a strange symbol burned into the leather. Her hands shook as she opened it. The words inside were handwritten, scrawled in ink that had faded over decades. But the story was clear. It spoke of a curse called the sleep switch. Her eyes raced across the pages. The legend said that once every few generations, the curse would choose a host. A person whose sleep would no longer belong to them. A person who, when they drifted into darkness, would pass that darkness on to someone else. The cursed one would live, but another would not wake. Emily's chest tightened as she read. Her breath came shallow and fast. The curse was designed as balance, a cruel exchange. One sleeper for another, rest for one, eternal rest for another. And worst of all, there was no way to stop it. Once chosen, the cursed could never escape. The longer they resisted, the hungrier the cursed became. It would take younger lives, closer lives, until the host was broken completely. Emily slammed the book shut, her heart hammering. Her throat burned with bile. This was it. The proof she'd been looking for. She wasn't insane. She wasn't imagining it. She was cursed. The sleep switch had chosen her. She staggered out of the library, clutching the book to her chest. The world outside felt colder. The sky darker. Every face she passed on the street filled her with dread. Any of them could be next. She wanted to scream, to confess, to beg someone to take the curse away. But who would believe her? Who could help her? That night she sat on her bed, the book open in front of her, tears dripping onto the pages. Her hands trembled as she traced the words over and over again. The curse will not end until the host is claimed. Her voice cracked as she whispered the words. Claimed. What did that mean? She flipped through more pages, desperate for answers. The handwriting grew shakier, more frantic. The final entry chilled her blood. My mother is gone. My brother is gone. My father is gone. I am the last. When I close my eyes tonight, it will take me too. The switch always claims its host in the end. The ink smeared as though written with trembling, dying hands. Emily slammed the book shut again, her chest heaving. The curse wasn't endless. It ended when the cursed person was finally taken. Which meant she wasn't just a murderer. She was living on borrowed time. That night, Emily sat in the darkness, clutching her pillow, her body trembling. She could hear her mom moving around in the next room, humming softly as she folded laundry. The sound broke her, because the curse was getting closer, and soon it would come for the people she loved most. Emily pressed her forehead against her knees, sobbing. She didn't want to close her eyes. She didn't want anyone else to die, but she couldn't stay awake forever. And when the time came, the switch would take and take, until finally, it took her too. Emily was breaking. Her body was weak, her eyes bloodshot, her mind barely holding on. She hadn't slept properly in days, but still, people kept dying, one by one, every night. At 11:48 p.m., the curse was closing in. She could feel it. That night, her mom came into her room. You look so pale, she whispered, setting a glass of water on the nightstand. Her voice trembled with worry. Sweetheart, you need sleep. You're scaring me. Emily's throat tightened. Tears stung her eyes. She wanted to tell her. To scream the truth. To confess that every time she slept, another life was stolen. But the words wouldn't come, so she just nodded, forcing a smile she didn't feel. Her mom kissed her forehead, smoothing her tangled hair. Get some rest, she said softly. I'll be right here. And with that, her mom lay down beside her. Emily's chest constricted. No, not tonight. She couldn't let it happen tonight. Not with her mom in the same bed. She sat up, trembling, grabbing her phone, trying to distract herself. Scrolling mindlessly, fingers shaking as she tapped screen after screen. She blasted music in her ears, shook her head, pinched her arms until they bled. But exhaustion was stronger. Her body slumped. Her vision blurred. The clock glowed 11:48 p.m., and Emily's eyes closed. The world went dark. Her breathing slowed. Her body sank into the mattress. And beside her, her mother's chest stopped rising. Emily woke with a gasp, her heart hammering, her throat dry. For a split second, she thought she had made it through. That maybe, just maybe, the curse had skipped a night. But then she turned. Her mom lay motionless, her face pale, her lips blue, her eyes closed forever. Emily's scream tore through the house, raw and broken, a sound no human voice should ever make. She shook her mother, begged her to wake, sobbed into her chest. But it was too late. The switch had claimed its closest victim yet. Neighbors came running. Paramedics filled the house. Voices buzzed around her, questions, condolences, confusion. Emily barely heard them. She sat on the floor, her mother's sweater clutched to her chest, rocking back and forth as the world spun. Her secret was carved into her bones now. Every death was her fault. And she knew something else too. The legend was right. The curse always claimed the host in the end. That night, Emily sat alone in her room. The lights were off. The house silent. The clock ticked closer to midnight. Her mom was gone. Her friends were gone. Her neighbors were gone. She was the last one left. And she was tired. So tired. She whispered into the darkness. "Take me, just take me already." Her body trembled as she lay back on her bed, pulling the blanket to her chin. Tears slipped down her cheeks as her eyes fluttered shut. 11:48. Darkness. For the first time in weeks, she didn't fight it. She let herself sink into sleep. The switch had found its host. And when the sun rose the next morning, Emily's bed was empty. Her eyes never opened again. The curse was over. At least, for her. But curses don't die. They wait, and somewhere in another small town, another sleepless soul will soon discover the truth. The sleep switch is chosen again, and the cycle will begin anew. Subscribe for more horror stories every day. Like this video if it gave you chills. Comment, would you dare fall asleep at 11:48 p.m.?